Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Nintendo Review Podcast. I don't want to do introductions this week. I just want to say we can play one set on Mario Tennis online. How do you feel about that, Greg?
Is that real? Because I thought it was only
No, you can do it. I checked this morning. I downloaded the update. I've looked. You can do it. You can play a full set.
In any mode whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do it. You can play one full set online. Finally. Right, podcast over. It's a good one, guys. See you next week. Bye.
Got everything you wish for.
I was delighted. We've finally done it. I reckon if they keep adding sets by the end of the year, we'll be able to play a 5-set game. But this is it's good news, isn't it?
Well, as long as they don't go the other way and put like a 25-set match.
I don't care. Go for it. Bring it on. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm Darren, and as always, I'm joined by Greg and Lee. Other than the Mario Tennis news, how are you guys doing?
I'm great. The weather, as usual, is lovely. The cicadas have started scratching away, and if you've never heard a cicada, you might hear one in the background today. They've been on and off all day. They are the loudest insect you've ever heard. And you think, oh my god, what the hell is that noise? And it's only just a single cicada. It's as loud as a motorbike passing. Amazing things there.
Can you put us in Taiwan? Can you give us an impression of the noise?
I can take a sample and drop one into the edit if you want to.
Awesome. Greg, how are you doing?
I am pretty good too. If we're going to talk about weather, it's taking a wee bit of a dip for the worse around here. So it hasn't been as good this week as it has been previously. Like, and my friend got married there at the weekend, and of course the rain was lashing down for it. So
typical.
Other than that, pretty good.
Good. Personally, I'm enjoying this drop in the weather. I hate heat, so I'm loving it personally. But we're going to get straight into it. And as I mentioned just there, Mario Tennis, there was an update. We got the Japanese translation of the update, and that's why everyone presumed it was just swing mode, because that was what was mentioned. And everyone was just thinking, typical head slapping, typical Nintendo. But actually, turns out it is for online as well and for all modes. And there's a few other things. We chatted about another update only last week. So the fact that they're constantly updating this, and we're going to chat about this in more detail later, but the game has sold nearly 1.5 million within a few weeks worldwide, which I think is excellent. So all positive on the Mario Tennis front. I love that game, and I'm looking forward to playing it more. More in the news, and more good news is I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but Hori released these Joy-Cons in Japan with a D-pad on it.
Yeah.
And they're coming out over to the way they've been announced. Yeah, you've seen it. That's great news, isn't it? It's what we all wanted.
Yeah, they're wonderful things. They're only a left Joy-Con, so it doesn't come in a set. So you can just buy the left one. And in the West, when they came out, in Japan first of all, they were just that kind of deep blue colour, when they like a slightly dark blue colour. But now they're coming out in the West, sold for, in the US, they've got a price of $25, so I'll probably collate to something like 20 UK pounds. They can have a Zelda and Mario design, and the Zelda one is far more attractive for me. It's red, it's a black colour with some gold trim in a kind of Zelda kind of tattoo design. Very nice. The only thing that lets it down is that they emit things like Bluetooth. There's no Bluetooth there, so you can only use this Joy-Con when it's connected to your Switch.
Yeah, they declare that, don't they? This is only for handheld mode. It's so cheap, but it's got rid of all the features. It hasn't even got the little shoulder buttons on the side, no gyro sensing, no rumble.
No, nothing. Just a bog standard. But does that D-pad look big enough?
Well, it's not ideal, but it's better than using buttons, which is what we have to do now. So I think generally I think it's only good news. I'm a bit freaked out that they haven't provided both Joy-Cons. I don't like the idea of having just one wangy left Joy-Con completely different to the
matching
other,
set.
I'm not ecstatic about that. My OCD's not going to take too kindly to that. But it's cheap enough. I want a D-pad and handheld play, so I kind of want this. Are you interested in this, Greg? Let's call you Jeff then.
No.
Are you on this, Jeff?
I'm probably a lot less positive about it than you guys. Like I think that just having one, just the left one, is like a bit silly, and I think it'll maybe like muddy the waters a wee bit, where like maybe people are going out to buy a new Joy-Con or whatever, and they'll see these official ones, and it doesn't have all the features of the regular one that's much pricier. So like some people might buy it by mistake.
Yeah, I think that's a big potential problem. Yeah.
But to be honest, like I've never really had much of a problem with the D-pad buttons that are on the current Joy-Con, but then I haven't really played that many 2D games, I suppose, that need it. Like if we get something like Super Mario World or Donkey Kong Country or something, like the SNES versions or something, then I'll know then how it
Super
plays.
Mario Brothers in September with the online. I know how much you love the NES.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. It's just if I play a game with it that I'm familiar with playing with like a regular D-pad in the past, then I'll know how good the buttons are.
I refuse to use those buttons. I just point blank refuse. I think they're terrible for control. So
I've been using the analog stick for some 2D platformers, and I kind of find the Joy-Con analog stick is so small anyway. It hasn't got a lot of left and right movement in it. It seems adequate to do the job. But when I was thinking of a Joy-Con with a D-pad, I was just thinking of just a D-pad, just a Joy-Con and a large D-pad, a comfortable D-pad, maybe the kind of same size as one on the Wii U gamepad, and nothing else on it.
Okay.
And then you
could be even cheaper if they did that.
Yeah, and just pop it on just for 2D platformers. That's the kind of thing I had in mind.
I mean, but it's better than nothing so far. Yeah. And hopefully, maybe Nintendo will do an official Joy-Con with the D-pad on as well. But we'll see. But I'm pleased about that. But in news connected to that, there were reports that because the Joy-Con doesn't have any battery built in, it drains the battery of the Switch pretty drastically, and even drains it in sleep mode. So if you just leave it on, not even if you put it in sleep mode, the Joy-Con not in use is just draining the battery of the Switch. So, but they've said that they're going to fix that. They've said we're working to have this issue resolved by the time the product is released in the US. We don't have further details at this time, but we wanted to personally reach out to let you know that we're working on this and it will be resolved. So that's weird news. But good that they're going to fix it as well. So I'm personally pretty looking forward to that. And quite surprising news. I was surprised. I woke up one day and I saw a YouTube video for a new Labo Toy-Con 3. It's the Labo vehicle kit, and you build the steering wheel that we saw in the opening video with a pedal. We've got the joystick that was in that video, and some weird circle things for and you can control a car, plane, and a submarine. Basically, it's Diddy Kong Racing. Archipelago Diddy Kong Racing. It looks like.
They must have listened to our E3 predictions. They got half the F1 car there now. And
exactly.
They've added on the plane.
It looks amazing. I think it looks great. The weirder the characters aren't like Mii's, which is kind of, they're sort of like weird, sort of borderline stick figures in 3D sort of characters. I was quite surprised, but I think it looked quite good. But I'm sure both of you watched the video. So what did you think? I presume you're very excitedly about this.
I am, and it's one of those things. I looked at the previous Labos, and I think they, from the games that were included in the software, they were aimed at a slightly younger audience than what my son is. He's 12 years old. Something around the 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old age range would have been perfect. This one looks more geared towards a pre-teen market. It's got a massive open world by what looks of it, and many things to do in it. Change your vehicle anytime you want by plopping the key, which is your Joy-Con in a cardboard cutout, into one of the three steering wheel, plane, stick, and the submarine controls, and just go around pottering around doing activities. As long as the overworld is big enough and there's enough activities to do, it should be a first-class product, I think.
Yeah, I think how big the open world is and how much there is to do is the big one, because however, I love Labo, I think it is brilliant, but the experience is just a little bit too shallow, I feel. But Greg, you bought Labo, you took it straight back. Are you gonna buy this?
I don't think so. I'll have to see what the game's like, but I'm kind of hoping it's more of like a part of a grander plan where they get all these perhaps younger kids interested in all these different designs and things, and then maybe they'll release something like Diddy Kong Racing or Pilot Wings or something down the line, and people go, oh, I can use the stuff that I've built on these games, so it'll encourage those people to buy it, as well as us older fans of these series. So I think it could be very clever.
I hope you're right and that it isn't replacing them, because this reminded me a lot of Pilot Wings. mainly out of everything. And I was just thinking, I mean, it looks brilliant, but I don't want this instead of Pilot Wings. But if, like you say, it kind of it's more of a bridge to the kind of fuller games, then great. But
my other slight fear is with a lot of Mario Kart updates, like, is this going to be included as another one of those updates?
That was my first thought.
Yeah, although the steering wheel and the accelerator would be great for Mario Kart 8. Surely they'll add that in as well.
Definitely. But is that it? Is that the last Mario Kart update then?
No. No, remember they've got all these online features in the new app that's launching in September. Mission mode and time trial ghosts that we can send each other. It's all coming. I kind of want to keep going back to the news that we're going to talk about a little bit later, but like Labo has sold again, like tennis, nearly 1.5 million, which is a lot more than I thought. I thought it was struggling a bit. But also back to Mario Kart in terms of how well that's sold, and do they keep it, or is it, like I was saying last week, Mario Kart is so successful. Surely, I mean, we'll chat about it later. But anyway, I think it looks great. I'm obviously going to buy it, and I can't wait for that. So just going to quickly mention this actually. But Capcom have just spoken. We've chatted about third parties, and they still haven't come over in massive numbers that I expected, and we were wondering how well they were selling. They've not given us any concrete numbers, but they've seemed very happy with how Mega Man collection, the Legacy, the first ones, not the X collection, the Legacy 1 and 2, and the Street Fighter Anniversary collection. They said that the Mega Man performed strongly, and the Street Fighter maintained robust sales. That's not mega positive, especially considering they called Street Fighter 2 the one that came out close to launch of the Switch. They said that was like a smash hit, so I think that was a freak occurrence. So that's good. It's positive. They seem positive about it, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more about that. Did you guys then pick up Street Fighter or the Mega Man games, or any of the Capcom games?
Neither of them, no. But they did say that exceed their expectations, which is, if everything has been exceeded, if Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate can carry on that kind of performance, then there's a really good chance that we'll see more Capcom stuff in the future.
Yeah, hopefully, and not just cloud versions like Resident Evil 7, but we'll see. The Mega Man Legacy Collection, aren't they on sale at the minute?
Yes, they are. Yeah, I can't remember the original price.
$7.99, I think.
Yeah, $7.99 now, and they were $10.99 previously. So you get about £3 off. Not bad for each one.
But £8 for 5 fantastic Mega Man games is a bargain.
Yeah, it's good value if you're into that sort of thing. Like, I've never really been into Mega Man that much.
Is it because it's the NES games?
Possibly. Well, I never really grew up playing them. The only one I've beat is Mega Man X on the SNES. But like when I played Shovel Knight last year, and it was supposed to be like a little bit Mega Man style, I didn't really enjoy it. Like everybody said it was this amazing game, and I didn't really get on with it that much. So it's kind of put me off Mega Man.
You not liking Shovel Knight has put me off you.
I agree, Darren. That was such a good game.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was a terrible game. Like I didn't think it was as amazing as everybody made it out to be, and it's just like pretty disappointing. And like I have the other two. I'm not even sure what the two
Plague Knight
games
and are. Plague Knight. I didn't like Plague Knight actually.
Spectre Knight.
Spectre Knight. That is brilliant.
Spectre Knight was amazing. The story that developed at the end of that was brilliant.
Yeah, I've still got those to go back to. But as for Capcom, there, I'm kind of just hoping they get Resident Evil 4 on the Switch, because that's all I really want.
Surely, I reckon that'll come. Oh, they're bringing a Cammy actually, aren't they? And that's a bargain price. I'd like Resident Evil 4 at $15.99 or whatever it is.
And Okami's out this month.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course it is. Good. So another recurring theme of this podcast is Taiko Drum Master. And so obviously there were rumours. I can't even remember now. Did it get announced last week? Yeah.
Yes.
Did we know last week? We did.
Yes,
yeah. So we just found out last week that it was. We kind of knew anyway, but it was confirmed last week that it was definitely coming out to the West. And then since then, there's been sort of been a trickle of bad news in some regard. The first bit was that the drum wasn't going to come to the West, and I'm telling you, after playing Joy-Con mode, the game is not worth playing without the drum. But so the drum isn't coming to the... No. Touch play is good, very good actually, and buttons is fine. It's fine, but the drum is what makes it. But anyway, the drum isn't coming. And then we found out that the game is digital only, which
is so surprising. All the kind of announcements and all that, it looked like they were showing the box art with the Switch logo and the European rating logo. That's an amazing turn of events.
Yeah, and so they're not releasing it. So it's then digital only, and then they announced that the soundtrack is the Japanese soundtrack. They've not even westernized the soundtrack. So they've literally, because they're releasing this patch next week for the Asian version, they're literally just gone, let's just whack it on the Western eShops. And that's pretty much all they're doing. So that's very disappointing.
Yes.
But in better news, you mentioned that we chatted about this last week. I completely forgot about that. I was actually chatting about it at the weekend because I was playing it at the weekend. But I can't remember us chatting about it. But whoever said it, you were right. Because the Donkey Kong bongos work with Taiko Drum Master, so that's amazing. That's really good news. So they're not releasing the proper drum, but you know they've got the Donkey Konga drum, and I'm sure you can pick them up pretty cheap on eBay. I presume. I mean, I still own loads of them. So, but for people,
have you tried the Donkey Kong bongos on it, Darren?
No. It would have been good. Again, it would have been useful for me to do it because I have the GameCube adapter as well, so I could have done. So sorry about that. Maybe I'll do it in time for next week. When we was playing it at the weekend, it felt like there's no reason why it wouldn't, because it's even got the side tap, hasn't it, on the bongo drums and stuff.
Yeah, with a little microphone on the side.
So yeah, exactly. No, that was for the clap, wasn't it?
Oh, the clap is for microphones, eh? Oh.
Yeah, and you could tap the side.
So guess which one of us three never owned a set of Donkey Kong bongos?
Did you? Have you never played Donkey Kong or Jungle Beat?
No, embarrassingly no. I would love to.
It was more embarrassing that or the fact you didn't play Toad.
You can latch him up and make a list.
So I know you guys were very interested in this game. All this news, Greg, are you still interested? Has it put you off? How are you feeling about it?
Well, I would probably have preferred having the proper drum with it, and the fact that it's a Japanese soundtrack is maybe slightly less appealing. But whenever we do get Western music, not always the best anyway in these Nintendo games, so the Japanese soundtrack might actually be fine. But as for the DK bongos, like, I don't have one of the GameCube adapters, and I never really planned on getting one. Because like even for Smash Brothers or something, I don't care about playing it with a GameCube controller or anything. So I don't know. It just sort of depends what it is like with the motion controls.
It's rubbish. It's terrible.
Is it really that bad? Like
it's terrible. I think it's unplayable. Unless when the English patch comes out next week, I'll see if there's a setting for sensitivity. But you'll like hit down, and then very often it'll do it as 2, like when you swing it back up and things like that.
It's broken.
It's unplayable.
Yeah.
Especially on anything like the slower songs on the easy settings. Maybe you could just about do it, but anything, because some of them are so fast, it'll be impossible to use them.
Is there a price on it yet, or?
Oh, I don't know the price. November 2nd is a release date. That's about all they've given at the moment.
I guess we'll see what price it is, if that might sway my interest a wee bit.
Yeah, but the touch screen works really well. It has like a drum on the bottom of the screen. You can just tap the screen. It actually works really, really well. And you can use buttons, which it ruins the fun of using a drum. But if you like
away
rhythm
from
games,
it,
it does.
It hasn't stopped me wanting it, and because where I am, I should be able to get my hands on a Hori drum, no problem. So it's still in my list of maybe my birthday's coming up in September, maybe something for that. We'll see.
Are you asking us for that?
How deep are your pockets, boys?
Cool. So, but yeah, we'll see. I'm a bit disappointed because I was quite looking forward to a new, like a Western sort of pack for it, so new songs. But oh well, that's fine. So yeah, so we've been alluding to it. So the final bit of news that I want to talk about is that Nintendo announced their sales, and I think they're ridiculously impressive. So just as a very quick overview, so the Switch is this is up to June 2018. So the total Switch hardware is just under 20 million. Software just over 85 million. And then they give some details on games as well. Mario Odyssey has sold over 11 million. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe over 10. Zelda over 9. Splatoon nearly 7. 1-2 Switch 2.5 million. ARMS over 2 million, which is amazing. Kirby nearly 2 million. Xenoblade, Donkey Kong, and Mario Tennis Aces and Labo all just under 1.5 million. This is unbelievable, isn't it? This is ridiculous.
Yes. It's like a crazy turn of events after the Wii U, and like even whenever people were speculating what the Switch was, and even that first event where they sort of like showcased what it was, like I think everybody was still like, I'm not sure Nintendo's gonna do very well out of this here, but like the sales are amazing.
Yeah, they've knocked it out of the park, things that completely flopped on the Wii U, partly because of quality as well, like the Mario Tennis Ultra Smash flopped on the Wii U. You put a slightly, not slightly, slightly better, much better playable game, but same kind of mechanic, and it's selling 1.5 million now in 2 weeks as well. It's only the end of June that it was released. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. In Kirby, just under 2. ARMS, a brand new IP, 2 million. I mean, 1-2 Switch, the fact that it's naff and it still sells 2.5 million, it is amazing. And if you think a Switch sold 20 million, obviously Xbox have stopped releasing their numbers, haven't they? But they reckon that it's roughly around maybe just a bit over 35 million Xbox Ones. The Switch is going to batter that, isn't it?
Yes, easily.
Probably by the end of year 3.
Yeah, and
easily.
If you look at the current tracking records as well, the Switch is selling pretty much the same pace as what the PS4 sold.
Yeah, but the PS4 had the two Christmases, didn't it?
Yeah, 2 Christmases, 2 holiday seasons, and Switch has only had 1 so far. So it's amazing. It's got a chance of battering that PS4 record. Brilliant stuff.
Especially with Pokemon and Smash Brothers coming out this Christmas. It's obviously great. Whereas Nintendo fans, you want them to be successful. Sony are doing really well. Xbox is still struggling, but I think as a company, they seem to be up in their game. They've the past 12-18 months, probably prepping themselves for the next generation. In all honesty, but it's all looking positive for all 3 console makers, I think. But yeah, these sales, I mean, I think it's great. So Mario Kart 8 over 10 million. So because we like talking about it every week, so that's why not. Do they release? I think you guys are more on they'll release DLC packs because there's 10 million people with Mario Kart 8? Or would Mario Kart 9 sell even better than Mario Kart 8?
I don't know if it would sell better than Mario Kart 8 because some people, they'll have Mario Kart 8 and I don't really ignore Mario Kart on the Switch. I'm fine with 8, even though it's brilliant. I'm happy whether we get DLC or Mario Kart 9 and they do some crazy new things. I'll take.
But they have to do something because it's 10 million people, and that number Mario Kart 8 is going to sell until the next Mario Kart comes out as well. Mario Kart 8 will.
So that's my point. They're just going to keep selling it. They can see there's 10 million. The Switch is still selling like crazy. Was it got a 1? I've forgotten what the attach rate is. Is it 1 in 2? Or is that for Odyssey? Anyway, it's in Japan.
No,
it's
they're both about 50%.
About 50%. Attach rate, so they know that they can sell another 10 million consoles this year, and then they got 5 million Mario Kart sales. They can't go wrong. I think they'd be crazy to even consider releasing Mario Kart 9 within the next 2 years.
Then they'd surely have to release some DLC.
Oh, definitely, and it's needed. Yeah. And I want them. Well, we've mentioned it before, all that kind of jazz, but old returning tracks, ones they haven't seen for a long time, would be lovely.
Yeah, but it is amazing in Splatoon 2. But they were saying that Splatoon 2 sales are actually tailing off a little bit. So maybe again it's similar to the release Splatoon 3 to release more DLC. I wonder how Octo expansion sold. I don't know. Either way, it's really good news. And let's just hope, because I think it's actually been a really poor 2018 for Nintendo first parties, and they've still sold an insane amount. So you only imagine that the sort of Christmas time is going to be even better. So that's all good. And when next year, when there's Animal Crossing, Star Fox, Metroid, Pokemon,
you keep dreaming.
Splatoon 3, Mario Kart 9, it's going to be a good year. Good. But so that is the news for this week. And now I want to know what you guys have been playing. So Lee, we've gypped you a lot about this game. Captain Toad, you've started playing it.
I have.
Do you love it as much as me and Greg?
Well, I'm not going to go over once again what Greg said 2 weeks ago, but it is so vibrantly charming. It's so colourful. It's so cute. The cutscenes in it are amazing. Toad slowly walking up to the fireplace and he's there with his tent open and you can see the treasures he's accumulated in the background. There's a huge bird flies past carrying Toadette and it's just lovely. I'd love to see more cutscenes in it, actually. The few I've seen, I want more. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about Captain Toad is the kind of different play styles that you can use. So Greg focused mainly on TV play with the Joy-Cons and said he had quite a lot of drift. Well, first of all, I tried with the Pro Controller on a TV, beautiful screen, so vibrantly colourful, and the Pro Controller, works as it should, guiding Toad through the environment, no problems. However, the aiming reticule is, as Greg pointed out, used with motion control, and it's a little clunky and awkward. You have to move it a little bit more than you would like in something you get used to the motion aiming in Splatoon. It's very fast, it's loose. I know you can alter it, but even the standard setting is fast, loose, and you can whip the camera around very fast. This one, it's really, really slow. I didn't see any drift problems though. So I'm thinking that with Greg, it's got to be a problem with the Joy-Con over the Pro Controller. And then I was thinking back when I played World of Goo. Have you both played World of Goo on the Switch?
Not on the Switch, no.
It's because it came out on the Wii. You could use the Wiimote, and you got the exact pointer controls, the 1-to-1. This one, when you're moving the on-screen reticule in World of Goo, I had so much drift. My left Joy-Con was worse than the right Joy-Con, and I imagine that's the same issue with Captain Toad. I recommend you trying a Pro Controller if you're going to play it on TV, Greg.
Don't have a Pro Controller, so...
Oh, yeah, you did say you're going to pick one up, yeah. Then...
Sort your life out, Greg.
Then what I'd recommend is you play it in handheld, but I'll talk about that later. What is another issue, and it sounds like I'm down on Captain Toad, but the game itself, the puzzling, the way it looks, the way you can swing the camera around to find hidden details, it's a wonderful game, and there's no doubting that. But the motion-based turning stuff as well. So Toad will walk over what looks like a steering wheel of a ship, and when he stands on it, it asks you to hold down the ZR button to activate it, and then a little icon comes up in the bottom right of the corner showing you a picture of how to twist your Joy-Con to turn the actual wheel around. So parts of the level then rotate. Now you're holding the Pro Controller and you press the ZR, and it's got that handy motion thing, and you're swinging your Pro Controller forward, backwards, twisting it around like a steering wheel, tipping it up, and it doesn't work. There's this slight movement which is like, oh, it's promising, I'm going in the right direction, and it doesn't work at all. So with the Pro Controller you have to resort to spinning the right stick around, which isn't fast enough. There were times when on a couple of even the earlier levels where you have to spin one block around to shoot bullet bills in another direction, and if you're not fast enough by pressing ZR then starting to spin the right analog stick around, you'll get hit by the bullet bill because you're not fast enough. It shows its roots being on the Wii U and having a touchscreen at all times. The motion stuff is just not well implemented at all, which is where handheld comes in. And handheld just fixes all these finicky control issues, replaces everything with touchscreen inputs, and even when you're searching for those minuscule Captain Toad pixels, your finger press is so accurate as well. Spinning the little wheel is just flicking your finger round and round on the screen. Works beautifully, and it looks beautiful in the handheld as well.
So you think this is the way to play it?
Perfect way to play it, yes. It seems really, really well suited for it.
I totally agree. Like, I played it pretty much almost entirely in handheld mode as well, so yeah, definitely the way to go.
Yeah, it negates all that motion control flippery. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is the multiplayer. Have you tried the multiplayer, Greg?
I haven't. Interested to hear what it's like.
Don't. Don't.
Okay.
Oh, God, really?
For one big issue, well, not one big issue, but there's several issues which turn into a big issue. You can only play the multiplayer with split Joy-Con. So I'm sitting there trying to set it up with my son, and I'm going, right, I got the Pro Controller, I load the Pro Controller up, and I'm clicking on it, and it's like, oh, you can't do it. So, alright, pull the Joy-Cons off, because we're playing it on TV. Give him one Joy-Con, me one Joy-Con, okay, we're split Joy-Cons. Not such a big issue, I know it's a bit small, but for this kind of game, which the kind of levels are small as well, it's kind of serviceable. So player one has one Joy-Con, and you can move Toad around, and you've got what would correspond to your A button to grab things like vegetables and coins, and then throw the turnips at enemies. Player two, unfortunately, controls everything else. So they got one cool function where player 2 can point at the screen with the on-screen reticule and press ZR and shoot turnips, red turnips at enemies. But my son is there, using it like an on-rail shooter. He's just taking all the enemies out in 3 seconds, and then there's no enemies left. So the level then becomes far too easy. It's just a wandering match, you're just wandering around trying to find the things. There's no peril left. So that was a slight downside. The biggest downside, though, is that the player 2 controls the camera. So as player one, I'm constantly going to my son, can you move the camera just up a little bit? And then he pushes up and it goes down. And no, in the kind of 45, and you're constantly having to explain exactly where you want the camera, or at times it gets so frustrating, you just grab the controller off him and then move it to where you want and say, that's where I wanted it. So what seemed like a game that would be this lovely father and son bonding experience turned into a little bit of a slanging match about camera placement and
stop killing the enemies.
Yeah, stop killing the enemies is too easy now. Fantastic game. I'd highly recommend single player handheld only.
I will say though that the multiplayer sounds like it would be perfect for like me and Hugo, and maybe for Greg and his kid in a year or so. Because if he just controls Toad and I'm controlling the camera and can make it a bit easier for him if I need to, because he couldn't control the camera and move Toad around it.
Yes, if
so
you
that sounds kind of
it,
perfect.
If you
actually,
switched it around the other way, where your child is manipulating Toad, yes, that would be good. Because as a experienced gamer, even if my son is playing it, I know exactly where the camera needs to be. Yes, you're right, Darren.
Yeah, exactly. So actually, it's obviously a very limited, specific way to play multiplayer, but I actually think for a very young kid, I think it sounds pretty good. I'm quite looking forward to it, because he's been wanting to play Toad, and I've just been like, nah, I don't think you'll like it, mate. I don't think you'll be able to do it. I don't think it's worth it. He wants to play Donkey Kong as well. I'm like, mate, we won't get past level 1 playing that together. But no, that sounds, you're negative. It sounds promising to me.
Some of that slang and match stuff kind of reminded me of Snipper Clips, actually, because that's supposed to be like a really fun game where you're playing together, but whenever you're trying to explain, we'll cut each other that way, it's like, you're just throwing the control over here, you do it, you know. That's what it turned out for me anyway.
No, same. I played it through the weekend actually, so I'll talk about that in a minute, but Snipper Clip says so Greg, you've been avoiding the Switch yet again.
Well, I actually got to the weekend there, and I was sort of thinking, I'm not going to have any games to talk about this week, because I've sort of been chipping away at like Golf Story and Captain Toads, so it's just games that I've spoken about before. So on Sunday night, I remembered we'd been talking about Spirit Camera last week, and I'd sort of mentioned a few DS games that I thought had done some unique things that were interesting. So I decided to go back and play Another Code, which I haven't played for quite a few years. And sometimes it's dangerous going back to games that you've loved in the past, because I experienced this myself with Star Fox Adventures a couple of years ago. I played it and I thought it was probably one of the best GameCube games back at the time, and it wasn't good when I went back to it. Like, I seen all these flaws with it that I didn't really enjoy, and to be honest, I'm sort of feeling almost the same about Another Code as well. It's not quite as good as I remember. I think part of the reason I loved it back then was because it used all these features of the DS in like unique ways, and you'd never really like experienced stuff like that before, and like the touch screen stuff was all still new to us, and microphones and things. Going back to it, the puzzles weren't exactly that challenging, and maybe it's because I already knew how to do a lot of the puzzles that it wasn't as interesting this time, because like I didn't really have to think about it. And we'll get to that there. Basically, it's a game. It's like a point-and-click adventure kind of, and you start off as this girl called Ashley, and she hasn't seen her dad since she was 3. I think she thought he was dead, and she has these memories of her mother dying from when she was that age. But all of a sudden, it's getting towards her 14th birthday, and her dad, who she thought was dead, sends her out this it's a DAS, it's called. It looks exactly like a DS, and he wants her to come and meet him on this place called Blood Edward Island, which doesn't sound like the most...
Cheers, Dad.
A nice romantic setting.
So she comes across in a boat with her aunt, who knew that the dad was alive but neglected to tell her, even though she's been looking after her for like 11 years or whatever it is. So yeah, the dad sounds really dead on so far. So you come across on this boat, and the aunt, Jessica she's called, she disappears to go looking for your dad, and it just tells you to wait there. So obviously you wait there for a minute and she doesn't come back. So you're left there sort of abandoned with just this guy who brought you over on the boat. And then you go exploring by yourself for a wee bit, and then you sort of check out a few things, a few wee gravestones of people who like used to live on the island or whatever, and you'll eventually see this ghost. He's called D, and he's lost all his memories as well, and like only you can see him for most of the game anyway. And it's sort of about you've got Ashley. She's trying to figure out what happened to her mum, and obviously to meet her dad again and find out what's been happening and stuff. And you've got this ghost who needs to sort of figure out things that happened to his past as well. So you're going around and you're like inspecting different objects and stuff and solving puzzles and things. And basically on the bottom screen you've got like a top down. It's all the bottom screen's all in 3D, but it's like a top down, and the graphics are pretty terrible. And as you walk around you'll just have like a still picture on the top screen, and that just changes out every time you move to like different locations. And occasionally you'll have like this wee magnifying glass in the corner, and you tap on that, and that means you can inspect the pictures. It's not always obvious which bits you can like interact with, because like usually in these sorts of games you'll see like I can definitely touch that object or whatever, but it's just like a still picture. And I don't know if it's just with playing on the new 3DS rather than the original DS, but it's a wee bit blurrier playing it on there, so like the picture quality wasn't that great. So it's quite sometimes easy to miss bits that you maybe need to interact with, because there's sometimes you'll be maybe walking around aimlessly and it's like, I don't know where I'm going next, whereas you have to touch a very specific part of the scene, and then you'll maybe uncover an item that way. But anyway, whenever some of the puzzles are like interesting, because like it uses the microphone to do things like you might have to like blow away dust or something, or like to steam up a mirror to reveal a code to open a door or whatever. And then you've got the touch screen, which does things like there's a bit where you have to like find this brush, and then you can use it to like remove rust from a sign, or like piece items together, or like cut a rope or something. But my favorite things were actually to do with the two screens of the DS. So there's one that you'll all remember, like in Phantom Hourglass for the DS. You had like the stamper thing where like you would close the DS over to stamp things in a book or whatever it was. And there was that stamp thing here. I think another code was out before Phantom Hourglass, so this was like, it seemed like a cool idea back at the time, but obviously since you know all about that sort of thing now, like it's less interesting.
I remember getting stuck on that one.
Yeah. But my favourite one was actually one where there's a whole big bookcase over in the corner of one of the rooms, and there's like so many sections to it, and they're all like lettered and numbered, and like you don't want to be going looking through all that there. And you find this thing in the middle of a table in the room, and it's like it's a wee thing that you open up, and there's just like a few wee white lines and stuff on like two black screens. And you're sort of looking at it like, it doesn't really like make any sense to you. And whenever you X out of it, it says actually says something like reflections, and you sort of think, okay, if I hold this up in a mirror, like it's still making no sense at all. But the clever thing is, if you like slightly fold the DS over on itself, you can see the two screens reflecting in themselves, and it does create an image where it shows you like a reference number where you can go over to the bookshelf and find exactly what you're looking for. So I thought that was really cool.
I do have some recollection of that. Some of these stranger puzzles where you're using the touchscreens more, are they telegraphed well, or is it, because I played it so long ago, are they telegraphed well, or is it you've got to work it out on your own wits?
Like I said earlier, none of the puzzles are particularly difficult.
Yeah, I remember picking it up a second time and then getting stuck on one, and maybe it's just find a certain object and then putting it down again and never coming back to it. So okay. Yeah,
no, I never really had any trouble with it. Like, I should probably mention at the start there'd be spoilers here if anybody else wanted to play it eventually. If you're unfamiliar with it, if you've never played it before, you're probably going to have like a a decent time figuring some of the things out, but it's not the sort of game you can really go back to and like have that same experience. And like the story of it is, it's not that fulfilling, because like you've got this dad who obviously has neglected his child for all these years, and like so he basically says like, I want you to come meet me. So you come to the island and he's not there waiting for you in the boat. So you'll walk around for a bit, and then you'll find these wee cartridges that you put into your DAS, which only Ashley can use, and it'll say, come and meet me here. And it's like, why is he leaving these wee trails of breadcrumbs? And it's like, what an idiot. So like, and they're left in the sort of places like you wouldn't like expect to find them. They're just sort of like tucked away like in random places. So he's really dead on that way. Like, so like you do eventually meet him, and there's this other guy. Spoiler: he's the one who actually killed your mum. But your dad has been working him on this research for it's a thing called Another, and it's all to do with memories. So yeah, he didn't realize that he'd killed. So it's kind of funny that they've been working together all this time, and he's killed your mum. And basically what they were working on was this thing where you can take someone's memories and replace them with different memories. So what they were trying to do was, Ashley was she was only 3 at the time, but she's the only one who ever seen her mother's killer. But she didn't know in herself who it was, because she was too young and she couldn't recollect the memory. So what the dad wanted to do was get that memory from her, so that he could finally find out who had killed his wife, and then he would replace his daughter's memory with like happier memories or something. But really,
look what a great father I've been all your life.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's like you're just So the story, like, it didn't really explore that enough, I didn't think, where like she's been abandoned all this time. Oh, we're supposed to be all happy now, I've met my dad. No. He's just left you for 11 years to go and work on this stupid project. But yeah, that's another code.
Reflections.
worth playing if you haven't played it before, but don't go back to it.
There was a statement you said on Discord, Greg, which you said, I've seen something I wish I didn't see. What was that?
Oh yeah, I forgot that. Slide puzzle. I absolutely hate them.
Those things. Okay, plenty of those in Professor Layton and all that. Yeah.
Thankfully, there's only one in here, but those are like my worst nightmare. I absolutely despise them. I'm sure there's a wee easy logical way to do them, but I can't stand it. Whenever you get to like get most of the picture done and there's only like one thing in the wrong place or whatever, and you have to change the whole thing, no, can't stand it.
Not into it. So not mega impressed. Good. Well, you guys were chatting for ages about your game, so I'll be really quick. So there's not a game in particular, but I was going to talk about, I just had we had a bit of a gaming weekend, so I thought I'd talk about the games I played there. We started and finished Overcooked, and I think that was very much like what you were saying before, this cooperative game where you work together and kind of finish the levels, but in actuality all you want to do is smash each other in the face with the controller.
Did you smash David?
Say is many times. No. I wanted to, but I didn't want to damage my controller, so it's like I left it. The game is amazing. It was really, really good. I've played it before. I played it with my girlfriend, and that was a very frustrating experience. But if you get people who are up for the frustration of it and get the fun in the frustration of it and being frustrated with each other and wanting to replay levels and things like that, there's a certain mentality. And the game is really incredible. It convinced him to buy the sequel, which is online. So I'm looking forward to playing through that. But that was really great fun. We finished. It's got 2 expansion packs bundled in as well. I think one of them's got 6 levels, one's got 8, so they're very short. But we played through them as well. But it's just a really, really good game. I just realized. So basically, it's a cooking game. So you get recipes, and then you have to get the ingredients, cut it. It's a bit like Cooking Mama. You cut them up and then cook them, and then serve the plates in the restaurant. And you got to do them in the order that they're given, and you get bonus tips if you do them particularly quickly and stuff like that. But the game is amazing, very frustrating. I'd love to play it with 4 players because that would be just absolute chaos. Chaos.
Four boys together with the same mentality, a couple of beers, it'd be fantastic. It's the kind of thing I played with my wife, and it's divorce looms on the edge of it,
anybody, boy or girl, but you've got to be up for it. Basically, that's the thing. You got to But any kind of non-gamers that you think could maybe enjoy it, I actually just think maybe, I don't know, maybe not. I think Snipper Clips is more of a kind of non-gamers game. We played through that and finished that as well. And that was really good fun. That was less frustrating than Overcooked, actually. So, Greg, if you think Snipper Clips is frustrating, try Overcooked. Snipper Clips is a breeze in comparison. But that was amazing. But the biggest surprise of that was that there's some mini-games, multiplayer mini-games. Because while I was playing it, and I don't know if you've do the same thing if you're as immature as we are, but like as soon as the level's finished, you just run over to the other one and try and cut them to pieces.
Of course.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, oh, how good would it be if there was like a beat 'em up style mode where you could cut each other? And there is.
I know. It's
there is
a great laugh.
Yeah, and it's really good. But so we played that and that was really good, but it's very simple and limited. But there's two other modes, like multiplayer modes, and they were amazing. One of them is called Hoops. It's exactly what you imagine. It's basketball games. So there's a net either side. The ball drops from above, and you've sort of got to like jump with the ball and try and get it in the net. That was amazing. And there's also hockey, which is pretty much air hockey. So your little character is your little paddle, and then you got the ball, the puck, and then you got to try and kind of get it in the other people's net. But it works brilliantly, and you can still snip each other. So you can. There's a sort of a balance, risk reward of like trying to go for the attack and maybe trying to quickly go over and snip them, but then maybe they could knock it past you while you do that. But there was surprisingly brilliant games. So that was really good fun. We played Taiko Drum Master. I'm gonna put. I did do a video of David playing it. I'll put it on our Instagram. It is. He doesn't have any rhythm, so it was quite funny. But that was amazing. And then obviously we played in total maybe about 10-15 hours, closer to 15 hours of,
here we go.
of Pikmin 3, of the great Pikmin 3. We mixed it between Bingo Battle, which is the competitive mode. I don't know if you've, Greg, I don't think you played it. Basically, Bingo, you know Pikmin though, don't you? You played Pikmin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Bingo Battle is, so split screen, and you have a bingo card with, in every square there's a different item. So maybe it's an enemy, maybe it's a bit of fruit, maybe it's a bug or something like that. And you have to collect them to line up a line on your bingo card, and it's the first person to get a line wins. That's pretty much the mode. So we played that half the time, and it is as incredible as I always talk about. The game is just genius.
Is that competitive, Darren? Sorry to interrupt. Or are you
Bingo Battle
working? Yeah, Bingo Battle is competitive. You're not working towards a similar goal.
No. You've both got your own bingo card.
Oh, cool.
And it's the first one to get the line. And what's brilliant about it is that. And this actually wouldn't work on online, and I think there should be a button where you can look at what your opposition's doing, or even at least look at his card. Because what's quite good is that you've got, because obviously, say if there's one of them is say a giant enemy, and there's only one of those enemies. So if you get it, then it blocks it off for the other person. So if you get it, they can't get it. So you can be quite strategic in thinking, right, what if you look at the other person and they only need one item, and it's like, I need to get that item before they get it, and then there's a big race trying to get this last item. And
that actually does sound like amazing.
Really fun. Greg, honestly, I'm not hyping. This is incredible. But what's amazing about it is that there's so much sort of strategy to it, and the way the game can change. So you can do it. So you can do it 2 players, but not online. You could actually do it 2 players, but on this, it's like in Pikmin 3. You can have 2 main characters, and then you can flick between them, so you can do a bit of multitasking in the game as well, which kind of changes the game up quite a bit. You can change how many Pikmin you start with, so you can start with 5 or you can start with 50, and that completely changes the strategy of the game as well. But the game itself changes it up as well. So sometimes it's like set things on the bingo board, and then sometimes there's marbles, just coloured marbles, and it's just red, yellow or blue. So on that, you can't necessarily plan out what you're going to do, because there's 4 different red, 4 different yellow, 4 different blue. So you don't know which red and which blue and which yellow you're actually picking up. So that changes the game a bit. And there's also loads of power-ups. So there's power-ups where you get like a golden thing, and then that is any random thing you can slot. And there's a power-up where it changes the order of your opponent's board. So say if they only need 1, and you get this power-up, it completely shuffles their board around. But that can backfire, because you can shuffle it, and then it lines 4 up in a row, which is pretty good fun. There's a mode, I actually don't like it, but you can have something called the Golden Macaroon. So if you get the golden, it's like the golden Quidditch, but if you get the golden macaroon, you win automatically. I personally don't like that, but the game is just, like I say, we played it for like 5 or 6 hours in total, and it just never gets boring. It's just an incredible mode. And then the other one is mission mode, which is where you have to. This is 3 different types of missions. There's so much to this game. So there's one where you have to collect everything, and then there's one where you have to kill all the enemies, and there's one where it's like boss battle rush mode. So you have to time that, and that's again cooperative. And again, it's just amazing. And it's the only game where I genuinely want to platinum it. You know, you play a game and then, you know, you can go back and get it 100%. Generally, I'm not that bothered about stuff like that. But with Pikmin mission mode, it's, you know, trying to get that platinum medal is very, very difficult. But it is amazing. And it's just that kind of working together and like thinking of the strategy, because it's so difficult to do. Like, you have to nail a perfect strategy to think about, right, you get this at this point, then I need you to open this, you take the yellow Pikmin and break down the kind of electricity gate while I'm going to go around the back way and collect all these, and then I need that open. It's just incredible, and I mean that online would be brilliant, as I keep talking about. But it's 5 years old. I've played it for 150, maybe even closer to 200 hours. I reckon I should have a look, and it's still brilliant. And it made me actually want to play through it again. You
must have bought the DLC for that as well, Darren. Did you?
Yeah, I got all the DLC. Yeah,
I love the mission mode myself. I didn't play the bingo battle so much. My son was of the wrong age, but yeah, the mission modes were fantastic.
Yeah, really good fun. So we platinumed all the collecting ones, but we've still got all the not all, about half of the enemy killing the enemies. That's not quite the best one. Is the collecting one, because you can get everything, collect everything, but you've got to take it back to your onion. So there's times when you've like stick countdown, you got a time limit to do it.
Yeah.
And there's times you're just like, this 30 seconds and the Pikmin are slowly taking this enemy, and you're like,
oh, one Pikmin walks around the long way. Oh yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it is very good. But I am really tempted to play through Pikmin 3, the main adventure. It just made me want to play that again. But we'll see. But hopefully Pikmin 4 is coming. But yeah, we played loads of others games as well. I said I was just going to be quick, but Pikmin 3 excites me too much.
Before you move on, I did notice one of your pictures. I did see you playing Worms WMD.
Yes, yeah.
How did that go? Because I still haven't bought it yet, even though it's on sale.
He's bought it. We played it, and he's bought it because of it. He wasn't interested, and then because he's not played it since Worms 95 or whatever it was called. So he's not played it for over 20 years. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, and then we played it, and he bought it. So I don't know if that's it was brilliant. It is just really, really good fun.
Yeah. See, I'm sort of the same. Like, I haven't played Worms really since Armageddon on the PS1. I do remember having like loads of good times with my friends, like in 4-player, but those times are kind of gone now. So
yeah,
it's like
same here. What is the online like, Darren? Have you tried it?
Yeah, I've played it online because when it first came out, I think they fixed it actually. I've not played it since the patched it. When it first came out, I didn't think classic, but I didn't think you could play with friends. But you can play with friends. But what you couldn't do was do private games. So if people jumped in before your friend got there, then it was, and then we ended up having to kick people out your group and stuff like that. It was a bit clumsy. But I think they've fixed that. I should check that. But I'm going to play it next. Another mate bought it as well. So we're all gonna get online. But it was great. You could sort of like change everything, do any mode. There's loads of new modes. If you've not played Worms for 10, 15 years, then there's loads of new modes. But it's classic Worms is where it's is what's brilliant about it. But it's very, very, very good game. For $11.99, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think you should both buy it.
Are you sold, Greg?
Yeah, it's it sort of depends if you guys are playing it. Like I'll certainly be joining you. Like, it's probably not the same playing it with randoms as friends.
Yeah. It does have a pretty good single play campaign, which, if anything, teaches you how to play it really well.
Yeah. Well, that's probably need to learn how to play it again, but I never really played the single player in Worms before. Like I remember touching it in Armageddon, and I just wasn't that interested in the single player really.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But it looks quite nice as well. Like the style of it is really great. Obviously, because Worms is the tiny, playing it on the Amiga back in the day or whatever. But it looks like it's a nice modern version of sort of Worms, and it's the same gameplay with some nice additions which sort of don't ruin it. But you've got so many options that you can turn things on and off and kind of do whatever you want with it. So yeah, pick it up. Let's play it. Let's get on it.
I'm sold. Let's do it.
Okay, I'll do it as well.
And Lee, surely,
yep,
even
I'll
in
do
Taiwan,
it as well.
you can play.
I'll jump in.
So next, we've got another listener question. This comes from Johan Vorster, and he asks, Microsoft is working on new hardware that will be less powerful, more affordable console, relying on streaming their games from the cloud with a possible Netflix-like subscription service, and PlayStation has with PlayStation Now. Do you see Nintendo doing something similar to maybe extend the Switch's life cycle or running games on the system that would otherwise be impossible due to its relatively low specs, as they're experimenting with Resident Evil 7, the cloud edition? Do you think we'll see more of this going forward? Greg, what do you think?
At the moment, I would probably have to say not really, because you sort of think about the Switch and the portability of it. If you're streaming games sort of limits how portable it really is. You kind of have to sort of play in your home, and there isn't always a great internet connection everywhere. So I don't know. I think streaming's possibly a few years down the road yet. Oh, it is interesting that they tried it with Resident Evil 7. I'm not sure how well that went, really.
People in Japan said by all accounts, it was fine. If you were in Japan, it's when people tried it outside of Japan, it was a disaster. But I think it was meant to be okay. There's a Phantasy Star Online in Japan as well. It's streaming.
Yeah, but also when Capcom this week said about the wonderful performance of Street Fighter 2 and Mega Man Legacy, they did bring up that Resident Evil 7 had failed. They brought it up in conversation and then failed to give any specifics on its performance, which kind of suggests that this is something in the opposite spectrum. It hasn't performed to their expectations. Now, whether or not Capcom will continue this scheme forward, what I'd like to see, if they do, is a game that they said, I can't come to Switch because it's just too big and too powerful to run on the low specs of a Switch, is Monster Hunter World. If they did like a cloud edition of that, because you've got to be online really playing that to get the most out of it anyway, so they could go down that route. But I can't see many other companies jumping on this streaming bandwagon just yet, as Greg surmounted.
For Switch or generally?
It's generally.
I think if Nintendo are gonna like experiment with that sort of stuff, surely they're gonna do it with like their classic content, like streaming like virtual console titles or whatever. That seemed like a sensible place to start with it anyway.
Yeah, you mentioned it before.
Yeah, that's where I think they will do it. That Nintendo's online service now starting in September, I wouldn't be surprised. I know people say no way, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is like a Netflix style streaming service. It's Nintendo Online in name, so why not have online being the mantra of the availability of their older legacy titles?
And obviously they'll be much easier to do.
Yes, and much easier to maintain from Nintendo's perspective of who's playing, who's paid, who can play, all that.
Yeah, maybe.
What do you think, Darren?
I think we will. I think we will see a lot more of it. In all honesty, I think it's only going to increase and increase. I think there's Ubisoft brought it up, another company brought it up. Obviously, PlayStation Now doing PlayStation Now. Microsoft seems like they may be doing it. Ubisoft said the next generation is probably going to be the last generation, and after that, it's all going to be streaming. It's all going to be cloud streaming. So I think it probably is the future of gaming, and I think that companies are only going to, they're going to need to start practicing, experimenting, testing out their kind of servers and how they're going to do it and coding it. And so I think we're going to see it more and more. And I actually said I disagreed with you, Greg, a few weeks ago when you said you think the online NES games and stuff are going to be streaming only. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm kind of coming around. Maybe you're right. Maybe I think it'd be very disappointing. I think
it was Lee that said that, but
was it? Oh, sorry.
It was me.
Sorry. Giving you credit for that, Greg. No, I think you might be right then, Lee.
It's a wonderful way for Nintendo to start dipping their toe into it, But as for their larger first-party titles, I can't, especially this generation, there's no way Nintendo are going to go down that route. Not for the foreseeable future, but if they maintain the same kind of hardware structure over the next few consoles, what I could see is that they'd have like the option to stream, say like the Switch 3 is a more powerful beast. They could have the option to stream some of their more powerful games onto the original Switch and keep people in, without buying new hardware.
Yeah, I didn't mean I think like Nintendo were going to start releasing first-party games streaming only. I just mean as a general, I think more and more companies are going to do it just generally. And on the Switch in particular, I think third parties are probably going to start doing it a little bit more as well. I don't mean like next year every game's going to be streaming. You can't buy a physical cartridge again, but just a slow ramp up from sort of now. Really, I can see it happening, but it's not a future I particularly look forward to.
Yeah, like eventually you assume like everybody's sort of got smart TVs now. Well, most people probably do. You imagine gaming's going to be like you're not even going to need a console or something to plug in. It's just going to be like it's going to be on everybody's TV or everybody's phone or whatever. I'm not really sure what way you would play it, how controllers and things would work.
Yeah, Nintendo can just sell you a controller which has the streaming capabilities in the controller, like maybe a gamepad, and then it flicks across to you download the rest to your smart TV. and away you go.
Or maybe it could actually be like the streaming services, like now, like there is a Netflix and there's Amazon Prime, and Apple are going to do theirs, and Disney and Fox are going to join together, and they're going to have their own streaming subscription service. And maybe it will be more like, there isn't any hardware, and it is just you subscribe to Nintendo's streaming services and Sony's and Microsoft's, and so they're still separate.
Yeah, and then you just, I don't know, buy a controller from somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see what happens. It's interesting. So now we're finally going to get to the topic of the week. And the topic for this week is, have you ever had a period of falling out of love of gaming in your life? Greg, have you always loved gaming, or have you given up?
No, I've never fallen out of love with gaming. I maybe get periods where I'll maybe like, I've been playing Nintendo for a while. It's just like, I sort of need something a wee bit different, so I'll go and play like the PlayStation for a while or something, and then like after a couple of weeks it's like, ready to go back to Nintendo or whatever. But like, I've never completely fallen out of love, no.
Oh wow, okay. What about you, Lee? Have you ever?
Yeah, I've kind of replaying my entire, and it's a long history with my age, my history of gaming, and I can quite remember 2 periods of circumstance rather than will. So quick history, I never really took to the NES. I did have an NES as a child, never really took to it, and it wasn't until basically that the SNES, that my love for gaming, you look upset there, Darren.
There's all this NES hate on this podcast that's going on.
Trash.
So the SNES was the one that, like, Link to the Past and Super Mario Kart, even Doom, Super Mario World, Pilot Wings, Castlevania 4, Super Tennis, Super Street Fighter, Super Star Wars. They were all super. The console was super. That's when I fell in love with gaming. Then I went to uni. The N64 came out. Housemate had a PS1. I didn't have the N64 yet, though. So my mate had a PS1. We still played SNES a lot, and my apathy dropped off. It was kind of he was playing a lot of Final Fantasy games on the PS1, and it was kind of just watching him do that, and gaming got rather boring. So it was that was my first kind of falling out of love, and plus it's too busy with university as well, as you can imagine. Then my 3rd year of uni, they had dropped the price of the N64, and once we got to playing GoldenEye 007, that was it. Full love again with Mario 64, Pilot Wings again, Wave Race 64, F-Zero X, Star Fox, what else is on there? Ocarina of Time, Conker's Bad Fur Day was fantastic. Loved my N64. Then poorer years, even if you can imagine being a poor student, even more poor years followed, and my brother sold me his GameCube. Carried on loving games throughout the GameCube era. Then marriage came, and that's when my second slump happened.
Related to games, presumably.
Pregnancy happened, and a move to Taiwan for the future of Morgan, my child's education. We moved to Taiwan in 2006. Before we moved, I had no particular way of storing anything, so I sold everything I had, from clothes to anything you can imagine. Went to a second-hand store or was sold. I ended up going to Taiwan with the clothes on my back, basically, and games passed me by. And it wasn't until I was working in a cram school, Sesame Street at the time, that the boss was running a promotion to win a Wii if you could get a few extra parents to join the school there. So if you got 4 or 5, and then they put you in a lucky hat, and one of you would win a Wii. But he hooked it up to a TV one day and let all the kids come across, and we all played Wii Sports, and especially the bowling game. And then it hit me again. That very night, which was a Friday, I had to go out and buy a Wii. And it's since the Wii that I haven't looked back again.
And what year was that then? So how long was that?
That must have been 2007. Because 2006 the Wii came out, and then it was dry, wasn't it? You couldn't get a Wii anywhere, and that was the same in Taiwan, same in Japan. So it wasn't until about 2007. So it was only like a year hiatus of not playing games, but it was a time where life got in the way. How about you, Darren?
It was sort of I think there was just a sort of one period, I think, when I sort of fell out, and again it was a combination of a couple of things. So I've been obviously obsessed with gaming since I've got a picture of me in my nappy playing on a ZX Spectrum. And my mum says I was playing games for a good walk, but I think it's one of those things where that parents say. But so I've been playing a lot.
That's got to go up on Twitter, Darren. That photo.
Yeah, that picture. I do have that. I still have that. So, but it was when it's just sort of similar to. Obviously, I'm quite a bit younger than you. So I went to. So it was just after university when I kind of fell out a little bit of love with games. So at university, I took the N64 to university and played that lots. And then when I was in university, the GameCube came out, the Game Boy Advance, and then the GameCube came out. And I imported the GameCube from Japan, the Orange Spice one. Still got that, and I imported it. And that was amazing, because I was at university, so we were playing, kind of a lot of Mario Kart. And it's when I left university that I started to sort of fall out of love. I actually got a bit bored with the GameCube and PlayStation 2 generation. It was that generation, I was just like, this is just more, it was a little bit more of the same from the N64. It just felt a bit similar. There's a lot of games I loved. I loved sort of Sands of Time, Resident Evil 4. Obviously, this is the odd game, but I just got a bit bored with it. I was just like, I'm a bit bored with this. I think I didn't like. It felt like Sunshine was the worst Mario game I'd ever played. Mario Kart Double Dash was the worst Mario Kart I'd ever played. There wasn't loads of games on the system. There was a few amazing highlights. Metroid was probably a big one. Pikmin, obviously, were the ones that I really loved. Smash Brothers was great, but I've never been a massive Smash fan, although I played a lot of N64 version at uni. And I just felt like, like Time Splitters 2 was great, but it wasn't the feeling I had playing GoldenEye. And so it just felt a bit like, this is just a bit boring now. Games are just the sort of same games that we've been playing, and they're not necessarily better versions. Like, it was a new generation, but are we playing better versions of these games? And then I left university and my career was just taking off, and I didn't have as much time. I was trying to build my business and build my career, and so I just sort of gave up on gaming. And what it was that excited me, that I was like, oh, that sounds good, was the DS, because it was just completely different. And I was so bored with games. I was just in the DS. It was like touchscreen gaming. 2 screens. I was like, that sounds great. So I imported that from Japan, and that is what got me really back into gaming. So throughout the whole GameCube, really, I was a bit bored by it. And in the DS, I don't know how many years it would have been. I don't know if it was a few years or a year, or it felt a long time, but I don't know. But playing the DS, and even the kind of basic games like that Love game that Sega did and stuff like that, it's just the idea of doing things like blowing into the microphone or speaking into the microphone and using the touchscreen and having 2 screens to do stuff. It's like, even average games felt exciting and new, and I'd never done this before. I'd never played this before. So the DS was, obviously by the time it ended, DS is absolutely godly, in terms of its library. And then the double whammy of the DS, and then seeing that trailer for the Wii, and I was just like, I was completely in, and getting the Wii, and whatever people feel about it now, but playing Wii Sports Resort and even sort of Twilight Princess and things, and it was genuinely an incredible sort of experience. It was exactly what I needed to get kind of back into gaming. That sort of double whammy of the DS and then the Wii. And then I probably love games more now in my late 30s than I did even as a kid. In all honesty, I probably do. I probably play more. Well, I don't know. You don't do anything but play games as a kid. But I feel in a weird way like more passionate about gaming now than I did then. And I think it was definitely sort of DS and Wii which sort of reignited that. And and I probably am beyond. I'm sort of less excited about touch and kind of motion gaming and stuff. And they're just sort of like really subtle. They're just parts of gaming now, aren't they? They're just there. They're not the focus of it. They're just part of it. And I think that's great. And I'm now back loving traditional games. And then when I think back to the GameCube now, I think I'm much more positive about it, and I think GameCube was a great console actually, but it was just kind of wrong time and maybe the wrong thing. But that was definitely the kind of a period of a few years, I'd say, where I was just bored. Thank you, Nintendo, for doing wacky things as you always do, which made me excited. And it kind of
wonderful.
Yeah, exactly, and it kind of did sort of, because like I said last week, I have owned pretty much every console, and I've always loved Nintendo most, but it was the DS and Wii which made me realise why I love Nintendo more than anybody, and why they're so important. When people were crying for them to go third parties and the Wii U was such a disaster, and it was just like, the industry needs Nintendo. It needs them to constantly do, whether with success or not successful, you need a company like that to do crazy things like have the DS and like what the Wii did, and even what the Wii U did, to be honest. At least they tried something different. Did it work? Probably not. You know, I think it had some amazing experiences, but it obviously didn't work for them. And the Switch as well, it's, you know, and it kind of, it's in, you know, back to the kind of topic of last week as well, of why with time not being what it was and things like that. So actually that is why Nintendo are the company that I do kind of go back to, because they're the ones who kind of excite me, to be honest. They do little different things, and even within their games, their creativity and things like that, they kind of, it speaks to me a lot more than others as well. So I can't imagine now, you know, you kind of think, you know, will we be playing games when we're 70, 80 and stuff like that? I can't imagine not.
Think about that. I can't see my love of Nintendo dropping off, but will your love, you two boys, can you ever see your love of gaming declining with age?
No. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either. It's probably only going to be something like arthritis or something that's going to just destroy us.
It'll be like a regret that I can't play anymore rather than...
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But I can't imagine it now. I can't imagine it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. See if we're still doing the podcast then.
This is podcast episode 5433. Yeah.
And Greg's replayed another code, 2 memories, a game. And yeah, good. But that's awesome, guys. But thank you as always. That was good fun.
You're welcome. It was very much a highlight of my week.
Highlight of my midday on Wednesday afternoon is my highlight. Good. We'll see you next week, and thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Nintendo Review Podcast. You can find this very podcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, and YouTube. Just search for the Nintendo Review Podcast. Don't forget to give us a review and ask us a question. We are also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, where you'll find great content such as news, reviews, and streams. Of course, you'll find us at nintendoreview.co.uk. And check out our Nintendo Review Discord channel for lively discussion, meetups, and in-game voice chat. Drop by and say hello.